Hello and welcome to the Will to Win podcast. This is Alex Muir, helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. And in today's special guest episode is with Swati Singh. Swati was born on September 1st, 1981 in Bihar, India. She immigrated to the United States in 1985 with her family and grew up in Washington, D.C. area. By profession, Swati is a corporate recruiter 3 at Navy Federal Credit Union and a first-time author. In the last 14 years, she has hired thousands of professionals in information technology, data science, analytics, and project management. Swati has a master's degree in human resource management from the University of Maryland, and currently she lives in Maryland with her parents. And please welcome Swati Singh. And this episode is brought to you by RadioGuestList.com, the #1 free radio guest, podcast, and talk show guest expert interview booking service on the internet. And welcome back to another episode. This is Alex Muir, helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. And in today's episode of our special guest series, we have our special guest, Swati Singh. Swati has a background in human resource management. She got her degree or her master's degree from the University of Maryland. She was born in Bihar, India, and then she immigrated to the U.S. in 85 when she was only 4 years old. And she grew up in Washington, D.C., and then she currently resides in Maryland, right now. And she does have an upcoming book, a memoir on her life, Watch Your Back, coming out September 1st, 2020. We're not going to delve into too much detail on that today, but we'll give a few little tidbits and sneak peek into the life of Swati Singh. So without further ado, Swati Singh, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today. And, from what you've told me, you've got some, definitely got some awesome things to touch base on, regarding the domestic abuse and other topics as well. Mm-hmm. And I really want our listeners to, hear your story, because it's a very powerful story. And I actually was from your initial email that you sent me, I really want to read through it and really let it sink in, because I always like to really read the depth behind everyone's story. And I really want to hear it from yourself and get it in audio format for the podcast episode today. So yeah, Swati, I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the time and of course to speak with me here today. Where should I start? I guess I'll just kind of give you, like, on a high level, I'll tell you a little bit about my book, about myself. I am from, of course, the DC area. My daytime job, I work at this company called Navy Federal Credit Union. I am in their human resource department. But outside of that, I love writing. I previously had my own blog page, but now I actually turned my blogs into a full-fledged memoir, and it is my book. It's going to be releasing September 1st this year. It's called Watch Your Back, and it is, like I said, it is a personal memoir, and this is where I am basically talking about, I'm discussing my viewpoint on certain social topics, and how these social topics have been kind of influenced by my firsthand experience with domestic violence. So some of the social topics that I talk about, just for example, is I kind of talk a little bit about how karma, my opinion on karma, patriarchy, no desire to have any children, things like that. But the beginning, I'd say the first half of the book really is about my journey, my personal journey, what circumstances I kind of had to fight to get some personal independence. How I met my, now my ex-husband, how that turned abusive, how I left, and now the status of my life, of everything today. So on a high level, that's a little bit about Watch Your Back.
No, yeah, really well said, and kind of gives us a little sneak peek into what's to come. And we're definitely going to be doing a follow-up episode in the future before your book launch, because we'll definitely want to hear a little bit more high level stuff that has to do with your book.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about when you left your relationship.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about kind of, how what point did you reach to get to that point? Like, how did you just say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm done with what's going on. I won't tolerate anymore. Um, what kind of made what was that pivotal point for you?
Sure. So just before I kind of get into my personal story dealing with with domestic abuse, I do want to just kind of clarify. I am, of course, I don't want to say that I'm like an expert in this field. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a degree. I don't have any work experience in this field. Anything that I talk about today, or just in general on this subject, is based on my own personal experience. I'm actually still learning the subject as I move along because I'm still kind of going through that recovery. So I don't want to portray myself as some expert in this area. Again, I'm just a simple person kind of talking about my own journey dealing with it. So that's what I just want to kind of put out there before I start talking about my actual story.
No, no, for sure. And I just want to also reiterate to our audience as well, just because you don't have a background or an education in something does not mean that your personal experience, um, you know, personal experience is still a very big deal. So, um, yeah,
Right.
so yeah.
I agree. Okay, so your question was, when did I decide to leave? So I did try leaving a couple of times. I've kind of lost track of how many times I tried leaving because uh, I would leave and then eventually I would go back again. We were living out of state. Anytime things would get really bad, I had an excuse of trying to, find a job back in my hometown, and I had an excuse of living back, moving back to my family. So anytime things were bad, and I thought, okay, I can't live with him anymore, I moved back to the DC area until things started improving, and then I would go back and move in with him again. And then it was just like a very vicious cycle where I was just kind of going in circles. But the very final time where I left for good was actually July 5th of 2019. So it's pretty recent. So yeah, that's when things escalated, and I said enough is enough, and I left.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. And then when you left and you went back to Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, right, to live back with your parents.
Yes.
And then is that when you got this job with the Navy Credit Union?
Yes, that is correct. So when I was living, well, before I moved back permanently with my parents in July, I was working for a DC based company, but I was living in Wisconsin with my ex. My company approved me to work remotely 100%. So I was doing that. But when I moved back to the area after I left him this last time, I kind of felt like I was starting all over again. And even professionally, I got this job at Navy Federal Credit Union in September. So just a couple months later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've been here, I've been working here since then, and I've been living here since then. So I'm in a much happier space now.
No, no, for sure. And this would have been September 2019, right?
Yes. Everything's pretty recent,
Oh,
all in
wow. Yeah,
2019.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's really interesting thing too. Like, I don't know if you're noticing it, but nowadays a lot, partly because of what's going on, but
Mm-hmm.
also, after everything, whenever that is, after everything does subside with the coronavirus, which I don't know when that will be,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like a lot of businesses and companies are trying to find ways to go remote,
Yeah.
especially if something like this happens again in the future. So I feel like because like it just happened so quickly and all of a sudden, a lot of businesses weren't prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's, a lot of layoffs and stuff going on and a lot of people out of work.
Right.
But because, again, depending on the company, like some companies are definitely trying to have some sort of software in place where employees can work remotely and still stay on payroll. But again, that's going to be dependent on, the company and if they're able to do that.
Yeah. Well, luckily Navy does let us work remotely, so that is a perk here.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then I also want to mention, how long have you wanted to become an author? Because you said you've always had a passion for writing.
Yeah, it's been kind of like an ambition. I don't even know how long. I'd say on and off for several years. I've always liked to. I've always loved writing, and I've always loved storytelling through writing. It
Mm-hmm.
was more like, I thought it was just kind of like a hobby, just to write. But then, as I grew older, I started experiencing more important things in life, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a book. So I finally did. And then in 2019, I actually started my own blog page in January of 2019. And I spent the entire year writing nonstop. It was, just about everything my book is about. And then by the end of the year, I finished it and I submitted my manuscript to a couple of publishing companies. So yeah, I mean, this is a dream that I've had for a long time, for years on and off. I didn't think that I had it in me to make it a reality, but I did. So I'm happy to do that and happy to be here.
No, that's really awesome, and it's awesome that you went with your gut and you went after your passion. Because writing is definitely no easy task. It takes a lot of structuring of your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's what I find very remarkable about authors is like good writers, they know how to articulate and organize their thoughts in a very coherent manner. So I'm someone that definitely needs to work on my writing. I have a blog as well, but I definitely, I'm always intrigued for, to interact with, fellow authors and writers. And what kind of platform were you on to write your blog? Did you just do Blogger or WordPress or a website
Yeah, I
or
was on WordPress.
WordPress?
Yeah, I was using that, but it was just only for 1 year, and then it expired my account.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's no longer valid. But so with my book that I'm, of course, I'm starting to promote it now. I just started my own author website, so over there I am going to start blogging again. So yep. That website is going to be all about, of course, my book, my events, and anytime I've done interviews and just anytime I'm in the news. But a big part of it is also going to be my blog pages. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kind of brainstorming some topics here.
Gotcha. And can you use any of those old blog posts that you have from WordPress, or since it expired, it's all gone?
Well,
Or is there any way that you can kind of, if you found some good writing in there that you wanted to use for to help promote your book? Like, would you be able to use that or?
that expired, but luckily I saved all of them. I
Mm.
saved all of the chapters, all of the blog pages that I wrote, and also some of them I actually put in my book too. Because
Oh,
some of
okay.
them are some
Yeah.
social topics too, so some of them are in there. But in general, yeah, all of them are saved on my personal laptop, so I have it.
Very good. Very good. That's good. Yeah, because I was gonna say like, oh, that would really be kind of crappy if
Yeah,
you weren't able to get a hold of those. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. But that's incredible to do. Yeah, like and how long is the memoir? Like for like the length of
The
the book?
length, so it's more on the word count, and I'd say right now I am around 24,000 words.
Okay.
But the thing is that right now it's in the editing phase, so my publishers are editing it. So I don't know how long they're going to take. I'm just trying to brace myself because I'm like, oh gosh, they're going to kind of tear it apart now. So no, but either way, the word count number could increase or decrease depending on their feedback. I don't know when you convert it into a book how many pages that ends up being, but because we go off of word count more than the number of pages.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And then for your blog or your website, Miss Cynicism, what made you want to come up with that
Well,
name? Now I know I would. Yeah, go
no,
ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say because I noticed that's the name of the blog,
Mm-hmm.
but um, because of what you've gone through, do you feel like you want to call that because you view life a little more cynically? Is that why?
Yeah, so there's a little story behind that. Well, I actually do want to update you on something. So as of today, I did
Sure.
change my website. So it's actually it's no longer misscynicism.com. It's actually
Oh.
yeah, it's actually swatisingh.org. Uh, so it's just my first and last name.org.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
they ran out of .com. That's really what I wanted, but I guess somebody took it before I could. So yeah, that's my new updated website. But the reason I initially titled it cynicism is because that was actually my name when I was blogging previously. And yeah, that's kind of like the brand that I've kind of created. Not in a negative way, not in a bad way, but the truth is, I mean, a lot of people do see me, like people who know me well, they probably, they do see me as they might think that I am cynical about life, about people. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry, but yeah, I am a little cynical. I just don't trust a lot of people, and you can't really blame me for that, you know?
Well, no, yeah. Anyone's going to be a little bit more cynical if they've gone through some traumatic events like that. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I would be. Like if I went through it, I know I would be. I would be very hesitant to trust anyone. You
Yeah,
know.
and the thing is that even there have been phases in my life where I wasn't this way, where I was like, where I, looked at the glass half full and I was like, let's just be positive. And anytime that happened, or anytime I had that mindset, it backfired. Something went wrong again. So I said, you know what? F it. I'm not going to, I just don't trust people anymore. And I don't trust situations anymore. I feel like I can only trust myself. And of course, I can trust
Hmm.
my loved ones around me, my, very small group of people I actually trust. But yeah, that's what the whole blog page or blog site was about, is my cynical opinions about some topics that I've been thinking a lot about. And a lot of those opinions have been kind of influenced by my experience as a survivor of domestic violence, as a survivor of so many adversities. So yeah, that's kind of like the meaning or the story behind that name.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that with us. And um, yeah, what's some other things I'm trying to think with? Oh yeah, you mentioned also in your email, you have a very strong photographic memory.
Yeah.
So now, was that because you were mentioning that you would remember like your house back when you were really, really young, and um, and I feel like people that have gone through significant, traumatic events, or yeah, any kind of hardships for that matter. I feel like it, you come out stronger, but you articulate your thoughts very differently, and yeah. So like, can you explain to our audience kind of how you figure out that you had a photographic memory, or is there something that influenced that, or do you always have a photographic
Yeah,
memory?
I have. I think you might have seen that on my website under fun facts about me.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
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 because I mean, that is something that I did include in there, because I do have visuals of my house. When I was
yeah.
3 years old in India, and most people don't remember, their life at that age. And the thing is, having it's not just I purposely, of course, try to remember stuff. Things just stick to my head, obviously. And the thing is that it's a little tricky too to have such a strong memory, because it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing.
Hmm.
It's a bad and it's a bad thing because it's harder to forget bad memories.
Right.
And a lot of people around me have been actually the ones who pointed out that I remember random things about random people. So that's when it kind of that's one thing that I kind of realized about myself, is that wow, I really remember things that aren't even important. Um, but yeah, like I said, it can be good and bad. But the tricky part about having a really good memory is that when there are times where I genuinely can't remember something, people don't believe me. It's like, yeah, they don't. They're like, okay, now you're just having selective memory here. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I genuinely don't remember this. And I'm not trying to deny it. So it's hard to kind of convince people about it. And it's there's kind of a lot of gray shades to that.
Gotcha, gotcha. And have you always wanted to get into human resources? Was that something like when you were going into college that you always wanted to do? Or is it something that just you were very intrigued by and that you're like, you know what, I want to try this. I want to take
No,
this.
I actually in college, I actually have a bachelor's degree in communication studies. So I wanted to actually be a journalist. Because
Oh,
even during that time I loved writing, and but as I grew older and I went to graduate school, I took some prerequisite courses within like the HR field, and of course I did well. And during the time when I was in graduate school, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was working. I just ended up getting this job at a staffing company as a headhunter, which I loved, and I did well. And so then, kind of working in HR, going to graduate school, I figured this might be the best field for me to pursue my master's degree in, because I actually love being in HR. So that's why I decided to pursue it, and I'm still in HR 14 years later.
wow. Incredible.
Yep. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. And it's for the Navy Federal Credit Union. So is that specifically for like Navy clients only
Yeah, it's for their
or
members. Yes,
members?
so they
Okay.
help military members, military families. It's a credit union. It's the world's largest credit union. So
Yeah.
I am in their HR department. So I am a corporate recruiter level 3 there. So far since I've been there, I've been recruiting for a ton of positions and hiring people like within comptroller, some IT, some BSA positions, just to name a few. But yeah, I do recruit directly for the company.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very interesting. Um, what else? What else was going to ask you here? Oh, and yeah, I noticed that you visited 19 states so far.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. What's been your favorite state so far that you visited?
Well, I mean, I don't think anything compares to my hometown, but if I
Yeah,
was to
yeah,
kind of pick something apart from my hometown, I would say New York. New York
New
is
York.
definitely New York City is my favorite city. I would say if I could move there in a heartbeat, I would. I didn't like it at first when I moved there in the beginning, and I think part of that is probably because I had just gotten married and I wasn't happy, and I kind of became bitter about where I was living because of that. But outside of the marital part, I really loved working in New York City. Um, but out of every place that I've been to in the country, that's definitely my favorite.
Right on, right on. Yeah, New York. I still have yet to go there yet.
Oh,
I definitely want to check it
awesome.
out in the future, but because I really want to see Wall
Hmm.
Street, I want to see a New York Knicks game, New York Rangers game, the Yankees
Oh,
game. Because me and my dad are big sports
uh-huh.
fans, so I'll probably try and bring my family and go there. It'd be really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, you should. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a ton of things to do there, so
Yeah. And apparently the way my friends describe it, because one of my friends went and they said literally like one street feels like a city.
yeah, that's true.
It's just so like it looks so close, but everything's just so
That's
big.
why I titled my chapter "Small Fish in a Big Pond."
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
that
is
makes
actually
sense.
my favorite chapter, by the way, out of the entire book. That is my favorite one.
Small
Hmm.
fish in a big
Yeah.
pond. Small fish in a big pond. And another thing I wanted to ask was about your opinion on karma and patriarchy.
Oh, karma and patriarchy. Yes. So these are topics that I did talk about, or I did write about. I'm sorry, I did discuss extensively. They each of them are in different chapters. So I guess I'll kind of go into. I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about my reason behind writing about those topics. So to me, karma is very mysterious, obviously, and I don't think any of us will really understand how it works. It's very, it's mysterious, it's confusing, it's tricky. I wanted to write about it because for the last several years, I've been kind of thinking about my own karma, you know, mistakes that I might have made in the past, good deeds, bad deeds, things that are coming back to me today, maybe things that aren't going so well, or things that that have gone not so well. Is it because of my own deeds that I put out there in the universe, that I hurt somebody and now this is happening to me, kind of thing? Uh, so that's why I wrote about that, because it's all about spirituality. Obviously, I'm not an expert in this field, but one big piece of this chapter that I also added was just my views on religion too, because I used to be very religious. I'm Hindu, so I used to fast during all the Hindu holidays, and then over the years, I've actually become agnostic. I don't really feel much. I don't really want to go on the track of talking about religion and God here, but yeah, that's my views have become agnostic. So that's my whole discussion on karma. And when you read about that in the chapter, you'll understand it more, and the examples that I give.
Gotcha. And what does agnostic mean?
Agnostic is that you believe, from my understanding, is that you believe that there's a God, but you're not as religious. Like I believe that there's God. I'm just not
Right.
religious. Like I'm not, I'm not denying
Yeah.
that there is a God. I'm just not. I'm accepting. I'm agreeing, and I am believing that there is, but I'm just not religious about it.
Right, right. Because that's like another word for the other word. There's another word for being non-religious. I just forget what it's called.
No,
Yeah, atheist. Yeah. Is that similar
no.
to
That's
no?
completely
Oh.
different. From my understanding, I mean, I don't have a background in
Oh.
theology, so the only thing I can
Gotcha.
say is, from my
Yeah.
understanding, atheist is kind of like you don't believe in God at all. So,
Oh, okay, okay. So I would definitely say I am personally
oh, okay,
agnostic.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because like on the
Mm-hmm.
karma thing, I definitely believe you put out good, you get back good, you put out bad, you get back, some sort of bad, in different ways. That's my understanding. And as I've gone through my life, I've noticed it
Mm-hmm.
happen that way. But then, like you said, sometimes things are random happen and you have no control, and you're like, what the heck? Why did that just happen? I've been putting out good and lots of good, and then all of a sudden this,
Yeah,
bunch of bad happened all of a
yeah,
sudden. So that's where that's where karma does get tricky, because you can be doing all the right things and then have all the wrong things happen all of a sudden out of
right.
the
It
blue.
seems like
So
it's
that's
like God
where,
is kind
yeah.
of picking and choosing, what.
Yeah, he's like, no, 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 you need to go
Yeah,
through a little bit more.
exactly, exactly.
It's like,
It's such a deep
yeah,
topic, though. I mean, there's just so much.
it
It's
is.
very
It is.
complex. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Eh, yeah, yeah. No, it definitely is. And do you still currently do any fasting?
No, not at all. I
No?
actually don't even
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to go to the temple. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
really?
even like to go
Yeah.
to the temple. So, I mean, if I have to go with my family, I will, but like mentally, my mind is just not there.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's like different, different phase in
Hmm.
your life, and or just it's just not, that's just not your thing anymore, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you also asked me about
And
patriarchy. Uh,
yeah, yeah, I want to know a little more
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
like
Yeah.
another complex topic. And in my book, I wrote about patriarchy, because more from the view of being an Indian woman, I'd say, just because in my culture, I mean, it is a very patriarchal culture. And I'm not,
Hmm.
I don't want to say anything against or say anything bad against the Indian culture. I love my culture. I'm just saying that this is like the patriarchy is just basically a system against, where men have the power. And to clarify, I don't believe in matriarchy either or patriarchy. I believe in equality. So I believe men and women should have
Hmm.
equal power. It should not just be for one gender. So to me, well, I guess if you learn the Hindu culture a little bit closer, a lot of the holidays that we celebrate are all uh, kind of revolved around men, and it's not where women are never celebrated, at least not the ones that I know. And that's what I kind of write about, because I feel like it's such a double standard. I mean, here we are, just always celebrating the father, the husband, the son, the brother, and that kind of encourages men to have that patriarchal mindset and think like they're the heroes of the family. Uh, and I don't agree with that.
Right.
It's something that, I've even seen, of course, I grew up with, so of course it exists in my family too. And I'm trying to I'm trying to change this mindset with, at least, within my own home, so like the next generation can kind of follow that. And I'm trying to pave the way for them. So that's really like the main
Mm-hmm.
topic I talk about when it comes to patriarchy in my book. So I talk more in depth about it.
No, I really like that because, and yeah, for our listeners as well, like, I'm a huge believer in
Mm-hmm.
equality, and a prime example is, let's say, me and my girlfriend again. This
Mm-hmm.
could be a small example, but I'll mention it anyway. Let's say me and my girlfriend are going for dinner, and I let her do all the ordering. I let her choose what we eat, choose what we drink. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead, yeah. And like, because I feel like, even in North American culture too, like, yeah, like it just feels like the man it just feels like men still feel they need to make all the
Yeah.
decisions too, and that's a form of patriarchy, which I don't
Right.
agree with that, because like there's some things that in depending on the man and depending on the woman, there's some things that men are very good at, some men, and some women are very good at, and it's like in your relationship, it's the same thing. You want to play to your strengths. Like there's times where I can be very outgoing, and then there's times where I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to talk at all. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with my girlfriend. Like, so we really play to our strengths in our relationship, and she likes taking
Mm-hmm.
charge, and I like that she likes taking charge, and I
Right.
don't mind that at all. That doesn't bother me at all. That's like, I,
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate it, because certain decisions
Yeah.
I don't like making. I'm all about big picture stuff. My girlfriend's all about
Okay.
details. She's all about the
Yeah.
details, right? So versus some women, they're all about big picture stuff, and some men are just all about the details. So it's like you kind of gotta. It's like having that understanding for having that understanding for yourself and also your partner. And me and my girlfriend really have that
Mm-hmm.
understanding for one another, and that's why it's like, yeah, it's just like, I was reading this book by
Mm-hmm.
Ramit Sethi, or Ramit Sethi, or however you say his name, and he's a
Mm-hmm.
personal financial planner, and he was mentioning that his wife didn't like taking out the trash.
Mm-hmm.
That's another example. And she's like, oh, I don't want to take out the trash. I don't want to do it. And then he's like, oh yeah, no
Mm-hmm.
problem. I'll take out the trash. And that's the small scale stuff. But in even larger decisions, like I believe that a woman can make those decisions just as much as a man can. It doesn't matter what kind of decision it is, big or small. But I just feel like it's just men. I mean, I'm speaking to all
Mm-hmm.
on behalf of all men. Men need to spend more time on understanding their partner. They need to spend the time figuring out what their partner wants, what their partner likes and dislikes. They need to spend that time, because we don't. That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
Most men don't, and it causes tension, and then they're the man's wife or girlfriend is like, well, what the heck, like you never spend the time to get to know me and understand me, and
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I'm moving on because there's going to be another guy that's going to understand
Yeah.
me better. Um, so that can be prevented, and men need to learn how to uh, how to just develop that understanding better, and that just comes with doing your research and getting to know people and doing your homework. Like, it's very basic stuff, but that's where a lot of men fail, and they don't spend that time because they're too fixated on themselves, or they're too
Mm-hmm.
fixated on their job or their family, and they're not there mentally with their
Yeah,
their
and I
partner.
can kind of
So
go on and on about this topic itself, but I'll try not to, because obviously we don't have time. But yeah, I
no,
definitely think
no,
that all that does begin. It does start from childhood. The way boys see how their little boys see how everyone at home interacts. If they see, like, for example, their sisters, cleaning up, and they don't have to do anything, they grow up with the mentality that, yeah, cleaning up is going to be the wife's job, not his job. So, and one thing that I have noticed after being married, and just from my life experiences, when a couple gets married, I don't think this is on purpose, but it just ends up naturally being this way, where there really is a separate list of things to do for the wife versus the husband. And you don't notice it when you're in it, when you're living it. You don't notice it. I noticed this in other people. I noticed it in myself. The list is completely different. What you're responsible for, what your spouse is responsible for. They say, you're, like they say in marriage, you're one, but I think the truth is you're not equal. Like, there's always going to be that push and pull, power struggle. But I do think that
Mm-hmm.
automatically or naturally, maybe just women end up taking on that role of doing more at things around the house, and even though they're working outside, doing more like the domestic thing. After having kids, it's like, they're the ones who have to do a little bit more of the adjustment, taking care of the kids with their career and doing everything at home. And their husbands, they are just out working. Not much has changed for them in comparison. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just kind of using some examples here and there, but this is a pretty complex topic too. I just think really a lot of this starts with childhood and how little girls and little boys are raised, because that really, develops the kind of adult that they turn into.
No, exactly. And yeah, like you said, it all stems from your childhood and your upbringing, and whatever you see is common that's going on, you're going to be like, well, oh, that's okay. I can, that's what I have to do, or that's what I'm going
Yeah.
to do when I'm older. Because it's all learned behavior, right? And if little boys learn the wrong behavior, or little girls are like, oh, like I have to clean more and stuff like that, or I have to help with dinner more and stuff like that,
Yeah,
then that's what they're going to think
exactly.
is normal. But you know, I also want to say, like, to set the tone as well, like that. Even though that's the way a lot of people live, like I always I always like especially telling my girlfriend, like, oh, hey, no, you don't have to do that. I got it. I got it. Like, because I don't I don't want it, because like she's just like, it's like that's where we're like,
Mm-hmm.
we relate so well, because like anytime we do stuff, it's like automatic, right? You just do it, and and that's great. But at the same time, I'm like, no, 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 just you just relax. You just relax. You sit
Right.
down and just chill out, right? Because like, yeah, I don't like it when she feels she needs to do like all this stuff too, and when she just
Yeah.
needs to chill sometimes too, right? So yeah, I like
Mm-hmm.
I like making it very fair and equal. I don't like it when it feels like I haven't been doing enough. I
Yeah,
don't like
exactly. So that's
that.
that's the reason behind why I wrote about that topic.
Yeah, no, and it's a very good topic to talk about, because it's
I
still
don't think many,
going on to this
yeah,
day.
and
Nothing,
I don't
not
think
much has
not
changed.
many people talk about. I mean, at least I don't think it's talked about enough.
Yeah, and I think the main reason a lot of people don't talk about it is because they don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to explain it, in,
Yeah, that's
in
true.
in the way that we are. Like, we're explaining it in pretty simple terms as well. But it, like you said, it can get
Mm-hmm.
complex. There's a lot of variables that come into play
Right.
with why people do what they do and behave the way they behave. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, that's those are two big ones:
Uh-huh.
karma and patriarchy, for sure. Yeah, and then. Oh yeah, yeah, and actually, no, I don't want to delve into too many details on
Okay.
the book chapters, because it's all springing to mind.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, gotta save it for the next interview. Um, let's see. And what would be, so I guess we've delved into a few of those social topics. We talked a little bit about
Mm-hmm.
domestic abuse, karma, patriarchy. Is there any other other big ones as well that you wanted to discuss that were
Uh,
kind of on your mind, that I didn't
well,
chime in on there?
just one, yeah, one other one that I actually remembered. We don't have to spend too much time on this topic, but I also did write a chapter on why I don't want any children. And I, that is also
Right.
another important topic, especially for women to talk about and to read about. You know, I, I don't have biologically, I just don't have that urge to be a mother. And people just don't understand. People don't get it. It's like I've kind of, I personally kind of found freedom and independence and even money. I kind of got it later in life, when I was like 25-ish. And when I got that, I was like, oh, this is nice. It's good to have all the freedom and independence. And then when I started seeing what it's like when I see other people have kids and the sacrifices they have to make, I don't know. People can probably call me selfish, but I was like, I'm not giving up my freedom and independence to do this. I mean, I love children. I love babies. And babies love me. I grew up taking care of all of my nieces and nephews. I've been kind of playing with babies since I was 7 years old. So I know how to take care of kids. I just don't want any of my own. Maybe because I don't want to be chained at home to that. And I don't mean to offend anybody by saying this, but that's what the reality is. That especially for the woman, for the mother, you're going to end up kind of being at home, and everything else in your life is kind of on hold. So I think that's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
important topic. And the other thing is that I just, whenever I used to tell people that, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, that I don't want any children, they would say, oh, you'll change your mind. And I'm like, no, you're basically it's like you're dismissing. I know what I want and what I don't want in my life. I mean, maybe I will change my mind, but it's kind of like it sounds very dismissive, like you're just not taking it seriously. I know what I want and don't want. And I'm 38 years old. If I wanted a kid, I would
Yeah.
be trying by now.
No, no, for sure. And you know what? Appreciate the honesty, because most people, they just want to go with society's norms, and and to be honest with you, people are not having kids as much today. They just aren't. People are focusing on their
Yeah.
careers first, right? And I can understand why, also too, from your experience too, is like at one point, I think I even told my parents, I'm like, yeah, this was when I was 23. Okay, this was a few years ago. I'm 27 now, but because that was younger Alex, and he's just like, yeah, you know what? I don't think I'm having kids. I'm probably
Mm-hmm.
gonna get a vasectomy at 23. And yeah, I said it jokingly, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I was semi-serious, because I have my own commitments I want to get out of the way first. Because it's not selfish. It's just, what's a priority for you? If a family, getting a family and having your kids and stuff is a priority for you, then that's for you. That's your choice, But you can't bash other people's
Right.
decisions if they just choose not to have them, right? It's just a different level of
Yeah,
understanding. It's a different
exactly.
lifestyle. That's all it is. It's a simple lifestyle choice. Some people are solely focused on their careers and being the
Mm-hmm.
absolute best at what they do, and going to the top of that, whether that be their business or their career, and they're married to their career. And then other people are married, and they have kids, so they're married to their partner, and they're married to their
Yeah.
family. So, like the way you said it, in a way, yeah, you have to. That's a big commitment, and people can't just jump into having kids like as like, oh, it's going to be fine and dandy all the
Mm-hmm.
time and stuff, and because
Yeah,
it is a commitment, right? It's a financial
I
commitment.
know.
People don't like to talk about that as well, right? It's a financial commitment, and it's a psychological commitment, because you've got to raise them and watch
Right.
them for 20 years, or 20, or however long that is, or 25 years, because it's
Yeah,
so expensive to buy a house.
exactly. So yeah, that.
so so I totally understand where you're coming from there. And again, you're not selfish in saying that. That's just a personal choice, and everyone has
Right,
the right
right.
to
Well,
have a
thank you
personal
for
choice.
understanding
So
that.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And it's good that we brought this thing up, because I know, whatever, some people might be offended, but people need to understand that everyone has the right to their own, personal life choices, and
Yeah,
that's all that we're discussing, right? Different views, different life choices, and everyone has equal opportunity, opportunity to make
right.
those
And
those
and
personal
and
choices
and
for
I do, and
themselves.
I did
So
write an entire chapter on this topic too, so just as an FYI. So hope your audience can also
Yeah.
check out the details of my opinion if they're interested in my book.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, yeah, those are some really good topics for sure. Um, oh, and any time when you were in
Mm-hmm.
that previous relationship where you were, you weren't in a good headspace, you're going through a lot, there's a lot going on. What tools or practices would you recommend to others that might be going through this currently, or they've gone through a similar experience, life circumstance
What
as yourself?
tools?
Yeah, or like what advice
Oh, advice.
advice would
Yeah.
you give them?
So, well, at least for me, the thing about me, just personally, is that I actually didn't even know I was in an abusive marriage. That was one of the biggest reasons I didn't leave sooner. But I really was completely maybe naive to it all. But when I did realize it, I was like, I think I'm in trouble and I need to take care of myself. So I would say to anyone out there listening in this situation, if you sense that there is a red flag in your relationship, please don't deny that, because I was in a lot of denial about it, and God forbid if anything has happened to you where it's kind of escalated to it being physical, it's not your fault. There is no excuse for abuse, and that is not love. Love doesn't hurt. That person is just trying to control you. So, and it's interesting that I am saying all these things when I feel like there was, just this time last year, I was in kind of stuck in the cycle myself where I couldn't understand it. But after I left, everything is a lot more clear now. Uh, your life comes first, obviously. If anything has escalated, or if anything's even verbally abusive or emotionally anything, doesn't even have to be physical. If you're not being respected in that relationship, I would please encourage you to leave, because your self-respect is a lot more important than just staying in an unhappy relationship where you're constantly being put down, you're constantly being disrespected by your partner, the person who claims that they love you. If you're not feeling loved and secure and respected in that relationship in every way, you can leave. You have the freedom to leave. And there's so many resources out there that are available. Uh, but just don't deny that there is an issue. If you really have that feeling that something is wrong and you're noticing red flags, just please don't deny it, because that's what I did for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I liked how you talked about the if you're not being respected, you have the right to
Mm-hmm.
leave or just end it. Because that's what it comes down to. Men,
Mm-hmm.
they need to respect their partner. They, like, and because it is men that are doing the abuse, verbal or
Most of the time,
physical abuse,
yeah.
the majority of the time. Like, yep, they need to respect their partner, and this goes, talk, for anyone listening, like people need to respect each other, men and
Mm-hmm.
women, or men and men, or women and women, like together, like
Mm-hmm.
people need to respect one another. And that's all that it comes down to: a healthy respect for one another, create,
Mm-hmm.
and a healthy love for one another. That's what, without verbal or physical abuse, there's no need for that. If if there is someone, if you
Mm-hmm.
are someone that is going through something like that, then, you know, utilize the resources that are
Yeah, and the
available
other thing I
and
also
end
want
it.
to
Get out of
say
it.
is that
Yeah,
it is not
because
your fault. You didn't provoke anything. You didn't make any mistake. If you signed up to be in that relationship, but you did not sign up to get a beating. That is the other person's fault,
no.
that they put their hands on you. It's not your fault. And again, and I'm saying this because I thought I provoked something to go wrong. So that's a big important lesson that I learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a very big lesson, because again, it's never the person. It's always the other
Mm-hmm.
person that's doing the violence. That is that the one that has issues, and they need help, and they need to
Yeah, and
find
that's
ways to
why
change. So
I do say that when it comes to the topic of violence against women, it's not just a woman's issue, it's a man's issue too. And if we say it's only a women's
mhm.
issue, then we give a pass to men. So I
Yeah, no, and
yeah, so
it's
it's
not,
for them
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Mhm.
yep. It's a two-way street for any time stuff like this occurs. And because the way I look at it, I'm like the way I always look at it when I hear about people that have gone through
Mhm.
these traumatic events in their life. I'm always like, okay, well, what was the man? Where the man
Mhm.
grew up? How was his family? Like I'm always like, okay, why? I'm always asking why. Why is he acting and behaving in this manner? Because his
Yeah.
behavior was influenced by something previously in the past. So that's what I always have, quite a bit of confusion with, because I'm like, it just, depending on the circumstances and,
Mhm.
whether they had a good upbringing or not. Most of the time they don't have a good upbringing, but I get very confused when they actually have a good upbringing, and then all of a sudden they they're still violent or they're still abusive. So that's, yeah. So I
Yeah,
always
and that's the
always
other thing,
ask
like
why.
I was saying earlier, that it does go back. It all starts from the childhood and how you were raised or what kind of house you grew up in. I know my ex was not abused. He did not grow up in an abusive household. However, he did grow up in, you know, in India, which of course is a very I mean, just in more conservative culture. So I know in his family it's that typical chauvinistic mentality that, again, like I said, it goes back to like that whole thing about patriarchy. So I feel like that has a big part of, or that has a lot to do with abuse too. When, especially whether the man was physically abused or not. It's just that it depends on how they grew up, what they saw, what examples they saw around them. Do they see their mother always
Mm-hmm.
compromising? Do they see their even if they didn't see any physical abuse, it's the treatment that they saw of the women in the household. So I think that's probably a big part of it, especially from with my ex-husband. I think that might have been a big part of it, of how he grew up.
Yeah. Some men, they might have experienced personal abuse or verbal abuse, but they still feel this
Yeah,
need to
exactly.
be in control. And I don't agree with that at all. Like, again, in my relationship, I don't care about who's in control. I'm a guy, and this is a guy talking, and
Mhm.
I don't agree with that. The men don't need to be in control all the time. Yeah, it's unnecessary. We're in 2020 now, and
Mhm.
times have changed. And although times might not have changed for other cultures or people elsewhere, for myself,
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. It should be, it's a two-way street. You need to be there for your partner. You need to just respect and love your partner, and
Yeah,
it should just be that
exactly.
simple. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add. I think I ran
Okay.
through most of my questions that I had for you. Unless there's any other questions that you had that you wanted to discuss with our
I don't
audience.
have any specific questions. I would just say definitely look out for my book. It's called Watch Your Back, and again, it does release September 1st of this year. So I'm really hoping and praying that the world goes, what's happening in the world right now. Of course, it's heartbreaking, but I really hope, someday things go back to the way it used to be again. Yeah, yeah, and I'm hoping hopefully by
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
And of course my book will also be available for pre-order, I think in July, but I need to double check with my publisher because of the timeline. Yeah, so
Oh
you
wow,
can even
that's good to know.
order. It should be available sometime midsummer for pre-order if you want to order from Amazon. But yeah, definitely look out for it. And also please check out my author website. It is swatisingh.org, and I'll spell my name because it is an Indian name, so it's kind of unique. It's SWATISINGH swatisingswriting.org. Please check out my author website. Feel free to write some comments. I am working on some blogs right now, which I'm going to be publishing on there soon. So that's why I have a coming soon page on there. And please follow me on Instagram. Check out my Facebook author page as well. And also, I do have a LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free to do that.
Oh, I'll definitely be on you on LinkedIn for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that'll be awesome. And then I'll forward you this audio probably in the next few hours here. And then also I can send you a sample social media post too. Should I use one of your profile pics from your website or one of your other profile pics from LinkedIn or something like that?
Is fine.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, sounds good. So I can do that, and I can forward that to you within the next few hours here.
Are we done with the recording, or? Oh, we're done. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. No worries. And and then I can send you all that, and look forward to having our next episode. We'll do that again. We can do that mid August or beginning August, whatever the timing works best for you. So then we can kind of delve more into detail in some of those chapters in your book.
Send me the recording of the interview. I'm going to go ahead and post it on my pages, on my social media and stuff.
Sure.
And if you want, I mean, of course, I can tag you. I don't know. I'm still learning how to do all the stuff because I'm not an expert with social media.
Oh yeah, no.
But
No, for sure. I've got a lot to learn as well.
When I upload it, I can put in like a brief description of your background too, if you're interested. If you want to send me like anything about your background or what you'd be comfortable publishing, then I can say, I did this interview. Please check out his podcast. So you'll get some exposure too that way.
Definitely, yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining us today, Swati, and really appreciate you opening up and telling your story. And I know it's not easy to do, and I'm happy that you felt comfortable enough to share your story on my podcast. And I know a lot of other people. I know they're going to be wanting to listen to this because everyone goes through different things in their lives, and when someone's gone through something traumatic and they can share they have the courage to share their story. Especially during a time of crisis right now that we're going through. I know a lot of people could be going through, I don't know, tons of different stuff. But it's just to let people know that there is light on the other side, despite what you've gone through, and despite,
I know,
feeling cynical at times. We've all gone through it. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and great things can happen, and they will indeed happen.
That's the other thing. There's so many.
Yeah, they're not alone. Yeah. There's always
also, if you know anyone else, any other resource, anyone else that I can do interviews with, please feel free to connect me with anyone, introduce me to anyone. I'm kind of trying to line up as many interviews as I can from now until
definitely
whenever, because I'm really aggressively gonna be promoting my book now. No,
for sure. Yeah, and because I'm constantly looking at, because some of my guests that I've had on, they have their own podcast, so I'm going to continue to filter through all my the guest requests to see if I can book some more interviews. I've already had 4 this week, and I'll look at for next week and possibly this weekend, see what I can find for different guests and podcast shows.
This was a good conversation. Thanks again. Okay.
I thank you all for listening to the Will to Win podcast of this special guest series. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave me a comment, like, and subscribe to my podcast to hear more episodes like these. And also, leave me a 5-star review. If you enjoyed this episode, you like the content, give me a 5-star review if you liked it. And then if you had some additional feedback for me, let me know that as well. I always appreciate honest feedback because I want to make sure that this show is the best. Best podcast and best show for what I'm the message I'm trying to share with my audience about helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. Take care.